Today is Elizabeth Angela Marguerite Bowes-Lyon's birthday, better known as the Queen Mother, and we celebrate her as basically the human embodiment of that friend we all have who somehow makes every awkward situation hilarious just by existing in it. She watched her husband become king because his brother wanted to marry an American divorcee, which in royal terms was like announcing he was joining a death cult. She saw her daughter become queen at 25 because said husband died young, and through it all, she maintained an everlasting unflappable demeanor. And to prove it, I'm going to share with you 7 anecdotes of the Queen Mother. The first one, the Jean and Dubonnet Chronicles. It's World War II. Bombs are literally falling on your house, and the entire government is begging you to flee to the countryside like any reasonable person would do. The Queen Mother's response? Nah, I'm good. Not only did she refuse to leave London, but she made regular tours of bombed-out neighborhoods where people were living in literal holes in the ground. Now, you might think that this sounds like standard royal duty. Shake hands, look concerned, and move on. But the Queen Mother had a secret weapon. A traveling bar service that would make a college fraternity weep with admiration. Her staff made sure that she always had a small bottle of gin and a flask of Dubonnet on these excursions. Because it seems that the key to maintaining morale during the Blitz was having your monarch show up slightly buzzed and ready to party. And after spending a day crawling through bomb shelters and consoling people who had lost everything, she would turn to her ladies-in-waiting and announce, "No, I think it's time for something uplifting." And out would come the gin, discreetly poured into a china teacup because even during wartime, standards must be maintained. It's like she was running a mobile speakeasy disguised as a royal visit, you know. But the best part is that when someone complimented her courage, she replied, "I'm glad we've been bombed. It makes me feel I can look at the East End in the face," which is royalesque for, now that my house has also been blown up, we're all in this together. And that is the kind of a statement that would sound completely insane coming from anyone else. But from her, it was natural. The second anecdote is the great dental disaster of Buckingham Palace. If you've ever had something embarrassing happen at a dinner party, take comfort in knowing that even royalty occasionally launches their teeth across the table. This was a formal dinner at Buckingham Palace, and the kind of dinner where people probably practice their curtsying for weeks beforehand. And the Queen Mother was doing what she did best, making everyone feel comfortable and welcome. She was chatting animatedly with the guests, probably dispensing that particular brand of royal small talk that somehow makes you feel like the most interesting person in the room, when suddenly her false teeth decided they had enough. They slipped out and landed on her plate with what I can only imagine was the most mortifying clatter in the history of formal dining. The entire room went silent. You can imagine that. Dozens of the most important people in Britain, all frozen in horror, watching their beloved Queen Mother's teeth sitting there on her dinner plate like some surreal art installation. This is the kind of moment that ruins dinner parties and haunts people for decades. But instead of dying of embarrassment like any normal human being would, the Queen Mother burst into laughter. And not polite royal laughter, but genuine, uncontrolled laughter. She picked up her teeth and announced, "Oh dear, the things one is reduced to." And just like that, the entire table erupted in laughter, completely charmed by her refusal to pretend it hadn't happened. It's the perfect example of her secret weapon. When faced with a potential humiliation, she'd double down on it until everyone else felt silly for being embarrassed in the first place. The third anecdote is the drunk guest and the art of deflection. You know that we are talking about dinners and royal receptions. Royal receptions are notorious for being stiff, formal affairs where everyone's terrified of saying the wrong thing. So imagine being a guest who realizes mid-conversation with actual royalty that you've had way too much to drink. And this happened to one unfortunate soul who, upon recognizing his condition, blurted out to the Queen Mother, Your Majesty, I must apologize. I'm fearfully drunk. Now, the proper royal response would probably be something like a polite smile and a graceful change of subject. But the Queen Mother leaned in with that signature twinkle in her eye and replied, Don't worry, dear. You should see the Queen. Think about the genius of that response. Not only did she instantly put the man at ease, but she threw herself under the bus in the process. That's the kind of move that simultaneously shows that she's human and has a sense of humor, and is not above a little gentle self-roasting to make a stranger feel better. That was very good. The fourth anecdote is the finger bowl diplomacy, or the art of strategic embarrassment, which is pretty much alike the prior one. When we talk about international diplomacy, that is serious business, full of protocol and etiquette that can make or break relationships between nations. So when a nervous foreign ambassador at a grand diplomatic dinner mistook his finger bowl, where you wash your fingers when you're eating, for a drinking glass and took a sip from his finger bowl, it could have been a career-ending moment of cultural confusion. But the Queen Mother, recognizing a fellow human in distress, made a split-second decision that probably should be taught in diplomatic schools. Instead of pretending not to notice or discreetly correcting him, she waited until it was her turn and then lifted her own finger bowl and took a sip. One simple gesture that said, without words, we're all just making this up as we go along, and anyone could make the same mistake. That was genius. The ambassador later spoke of her profound graciousness, but really it was just someone recognizing that sometimes the kind of thing you can do is look equally ridiculous. The fifth anecdote is the self-aware royal box incident. So they were at this theatrical performance, and a man in the cheap seats, unaware that the Queen Mother was sitting in the royal box above him, grumbled loudly about that silly old woman who always gets the best seat. At the interval, instead of having him arrested or at least thrown out, she beckoned him over and said with a conspirational wink, I do so agree with you. So this is the kind of self-awareness that would make a therapist proud. She not only understood how ridiculous the whole royal system must look to regular people, but she was willing to acknowledge it openly. The man probably told that story for the rest of his life, not as a tale of royal rudeness, but as proof that even the most privileged people can have a sense of humor about themselves, which is great. The sixth one is the longevity advice that would terrify insurance companies. So as her 100th birthday approached, reporters constantly pestered her for the secret to her longevity. When one thrust a microphone at her and asked, Ma'am, what is your advice for living to 100? Her response was pure Queen Mother. Wouldn't dream of it. It would put the undertakers out of business. This is someone who understood that the secret to aging gracefully is not about diet or exercise or positive thinking. It's about maintaining a sense of humor that would make death itself chuckle. She was basically trolling the Grim Reaper at this point. There was no secret. She was the secret. The seventh anecdote is the American Hitchhiker and the ultimate surprise reveal. While touring the Scottish countryside with minimal security, the Queen Mother encountered a young American backpacker stranded on a rural road. She stopped, rolled down the window, and asked cheerily, "Would you care for a lift?" And the student, unaware of her identity, got in, and they chatted about Scotland and the weather and castles, and only when she dropped him off at the castle gate and he saw the royal crest did he realize who had given him a ride. It's like the ultimate reveal in a romantic comedy, except instead of finding out your taxi driver is actually a prince, you discover your hitchhiking benefactor is literally the Queen Mother. The beautiful thing about this story is that she genuinely enjoyed these moments of anonymity. For someone who spent most of her life being recognized everywhere she went, And the chance to just be a friendly older woman offering a ride, that must have been incredibly refreshing. So, what was the secret to the Queen Mother's success? Here's what made the Queen Mother special. She figured out that the secret to navigating high society, international diplomacy, and basic human interaction is always the same. It's when something embarrassing or awkward happens, lean into it. Make it funny. Make yourself the joke before anyone else can. Show that you understand how ridiculous this whole situation is, and suddenly everyone else can relax as well. So she spent decades turning potentially mortifying moments into opportunities for genuine human connection. And in a role that could have made her distant and untouchable, she chose to be approachable and real. She proved that you can maintain dignity while refusing to take yourself too seriously. And that's sometimes that is sometimes the most royal thing that you can do, admitting that you're just as confused by life as everyone else. But I would like to know what you think about this in the comments. Remember to check my merch right below this video. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. Much love and bliss.